So I'll weld it in, come back a little bit. So we didn't trust what was there, that's why we welded a plate there. The new skins, welded all the way around and kept just inside, so we should be able to grind that flat. A little bit of fiber-filled Bondo or Marglass, fiberglass Bondo to take care of that. We can make that perfect. Our body line is going to be where it was before because we're going to come off of it with a roller off this edge, and there's no warpage there. I mean, and if there is, it's minimal. Primer will take care of it. So we'll come off the edge this way and come flat. We'll have a perfect body line. Here we were short, we added weld, then I ground it off. And we made this piece and pushed it in and manipulated it till we got it. So now I can grind all that off, and honestly, I think it's going to be so close. You could almost metal finish it. But again, here I did a lap. So we're definitely going to need, once we get it all flush, we're going to put a skim coat of fiberglass fill in there. What I like about that, you add a little bit of resin to it. If you do have a pinhole or something that you don't see, and I mean, if you see it, just weld it. But if you don't see it, it'll go in enough that it should be waterproof. Like it should be, as much protection as you're going to get, so to speak. And then here, basically, we left that piece to keep our edge. When we welded it in, we kind of welded it back on to make it match. I'm thinking here I might have to grind this off and weld this edge and just bring it in a little bit. Now that being said, I'm not even going to touch it. We might just grind it flat together. But we'll do everything else first, and I'm going to put it on the car to see how it lands. Because I think it's going to be pretty good. But if not, we can trim a little bit off. I mean, it is how it goes. We welded a nice bead of weld across here, so it's not just filler, so that when this is all smooth, there'll be very, very minimal filler. Same with down here, because this kind of came around and then off, so we had a little gap here. So we filled that in with weld. And then the bottom edges, we don't want that cracking, so we caught from the metal and came across. And then any little pits or indentations I just filled with some gobs. Basically using the MIG welder as filler rod. So now if you could TIG this, it'd be great, but I don't do any TIG welding here. Two little things to address. I had a high spot that I tried to push in right here. I think there's a weld on the back side pushing out. So I've got a little high spot here. And the funny thing is I got the same one over there, the way I guess I joined the bottom together. So that means that this fold I made, even though we haven't pinched it yet, it was so tight that where those two little welds were, I might have to drill a pilot hole in the middle and drill a hole to remove the weld from the inner structure. And then we have to weld that back up because we don't want that lump out. And I don't want to put so much filler that, you know what I mean? It's the trunk lid. If something bangs it, you don't want it cracking off. We want is a skim coat on here. Like you're going to block it. You're going to see most of it. I'll probably spin 80 across this too, just to get any little imperfections out. There's plenty of metal. This was like 18 gauge. So there's lots to work with, more than what the factory had, which was probably 19 or 20. This was off of a panel that I'm pretty sure was 19. So it's a little less than this, but it's as thick, possibly a touch better than that. It's hard to tell. I don't think this was 20, but it is a skin. It may very well be. But I know back in the 50s, and this is a 63, so it could be a 19. A lot of stuff was 19 gauge. So being that we went with 18, and this was a 19 gauge piece, we should be fine. I think it's going to be great. We made sure to overweld where they join together and stuff a little bit. Like, not overweld. You don't want to like superheat it or anything, but you want to put enough that when you grind this away, it's solid. It's not going to crack and come apart. And if you grind this off, you see little fissures or marks. If it's in a place with a bend, you want this to be smooth. Now, we do have the original bend of the car all the way down here. We just wanted to make sure where there was some cut marks that was welded up solid. But I mean, these trunk lids from the 60s, any panels on these old cars, they're pretty solid. So you can get away with a lot of this. This was like a like a 2015 Mazda or something, you know, your weld might be too hard and then their metal might be soft. Now that being said, I found with the newer stuff, even though the metal's thin, some guys complain about it, and I get it because it is thin. But I mean, I'm just using a 180 Lincoln Electric. I've welded a lot of modern metal and even used like 18 gauge or 20 gauge against whatever light crap they use. And I've been able to tack it and it's been fine. Now I can't go to town and tack it as quickly as I did this. But if you're tacking a patch on, I mean, it seems to hold. Nothing seems to go brittle or break. That thinner metal, whatever junk they're putting in it, it seems to last so many years, and then all of a sudden when it does rust, it rusts quick. But as far as welding to it, if it's in good shape, you can weld right to it just fine. You just got to do, you know, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, basically tack fast. But anyway, so this is probably like a short part 2 to the other video. I don't even know if I'm going to bother with any more of this. I think that's enough. We got 2 videos on this from today, and that's enough. You get the idea. So again, this is all about, you get a body panel on one of these weird older cars and it's kind of a one-off, you know. It's not a Mustang, it's not a Firebird, it's not a Camaro, Chevelle, you get the picture. You get the weird oddballs, you know, there's a lot of Oldsmobiles and Pontiacs. If you don't go into a certain year of GTO, let's face it, you're not going to find panels. And this panel for a 63 Cadillac, it wasn't unobtainable. They were available, but they were $2,000 to $3,000 US. They were all rotten in the same place that this one was. So sometimes you just got to kind of bite the bullet and fix what you got. Anyway, that looks really good. I'm pretty happy with that. And if you hadn't seen the other videos from before, everything you see in gray primer, that's all new metal. And I did it basically the same way in-house. Now we are going to come back, if you look at this edge, let's see if we can get a good shot of that there. Will it focus? There we go. See, that's not real pretty. I'm going to have to flip it over and finish weld that so I can grind that smooth like the outside. But all that is new. You can see between my 2 panels below the lock, we're going to weld that solid too. Anyway, any guy with a welder should be able to do this the way I've shown it. Have a good day. Thanks for watching. Cheers.